Hi there, and welcome to Canceling COVID. I'm Tanya Rivens, and we're back, guys. Another year at this. We're trying a new program, so I'm trusting and believing that everything is working out and that you're hearing me okay. Hopefully, you'll jump in the comments to let me know if we're having any problems. It's the first of 2022, our very first program, and we're back at it again, canceling COVID after a very successful year on last year. We've returned after we thought everything had been resolved and really thought that we were turning a corner. Some things never change, right? Like my lighting and all the challenges that I deal with. But you got to give me a little grace. Again, it's January 4th, 2022, and the first time out on trying this format and getting everyone started. We're in for a lot of great information, a lot of conversation about what's happening in our community. And of course, I'm grateful to say Groundwater Solutions is joining us again as one of our sponsors. So we're grateful for that indeed. But most importantly, we're grateful for the opportunity to bring you this platform, one that's been recognized and that's been able to receive some awards. So I see you hopped on. Do me a favor, let me know if the volume, everything is working out okay as I continue to fight with my lighting. Canceling COVID again, returning for the second year. We took a break right at Thanksgiving and now we're back. So if you post your comments right here in the chat, we'd be glad to share. Want to know how your New Year's going so far and how you have adjusted as we've been thrown into this really hyper accelerated cases of Omicron. So a couple of updates just to get you kind of familiar with what we do. Again, I'm Tanya Rivens, Canceling COVID. We launched last year, did a whole year from January to November, just bringing real talk, real conversation, using this as a platform to educate our community and having conversations about things that normally we weren't hearing on mainstream media. And it went over really well. We were able to receive some grants as well as an award. So a lot of recognition for what we've been doing with canceling COVID, and it would not be possible with our sponsors, Groundwater Solutions, Dr. Tracia Black, joining me in just a moment. In addition to that, Mecklenburg County Public Health, a good and sure sponsor of this platform. We'll see as we move along throughout the year. Again, I see you hopping on. I'd love for you to share your comments. Let me know. How's the volume? How's the video as we do our first year out the gate? Now, with all that aside, let's talk about Omicron and get started to answer some of these questions that certainly I know you may have. Just an update, 1 in 100 Americans have tested positive for the virus in just the last week. And we knew that this would be a different type of virus. Obviously, there were signals from South Africa and other areas about what Omicron could do and how we would be impacted. But, over the holidays, colder months, more people gathering inside, all of this impacted by the pandemic. And of course, I know you're probably just so exhausted from dealing with this, but I've always tried to remind everyone it's not over, folks. It's going to continue. This is a way of life, and we've got to make the adjustment. And I know that we dropped our guards. We started seeing the numbers do really well, and we were just celebrating, having a party, happy that we have survived this thing. And here we go again. I cannot continue this conversation without bringing in a very trusted and reliable resource who's also committed to the community, who loves her community and loves educating them. I'm so grateful for this partnership and the relationship. I'm talking about Dr. Tracia Black of Groundwater Solutions. She's going to share and provide expertise and talk about the Omicron variant. Then I have Dr. Dwayne Anthony Walker, Little Rock Amy Zion Church, who's going to join us as well. I see you hopping on again. Post your comments. Let me know how you're doing. Say hi for 2022 if I haven't had a chance to talk to you. But most importantly, stick around as we share some great information, especially about how this virus is impacting our young people. So Dr. Tracia Black is joining us right now. Hey, Dr. Black, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Well,
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, we're back at this, and I've been very nervous. This is a different platform, and I'm kind of wearing a lot of hats. So I'm asking everyone for grace for the very first show. But I see you are right there working at it, doing everything that you possibly can, which you've always done. You've been a very trusted confidant in dealing with this. And you've said all along, don't raise your guard. I mean, don't drop your guard on this.
Right,
So
right,
let's just start from Omicron, your observation and what's happening in the community. And also let people know, groundwater solutions, because we're kicking off another year.
right, right. So I'll tell you what my experience has been. So we
Okay.
have been working hard since the beginning of the pandemic on keeping our communities safe, making testing available for communities who otherwise would not have had it early in 2020. And we've been going ever since. I think, like you said, Tanya, everybody, we were ready to celebrate when it came to the end of this year, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we did. But we had started experiencing increased positives. We have a laboratory, so we do our own testing and collecting, and then we process in our laboratory. So numbers started rising at Thanksgiving, immediately following Thanksgiving. And then they got progressively worse. It still wasn't at a rate that I thought was alarming. So I took the first vacation that we
Oh,
had since the pandemic started. I went to Florida with my family the week after Christmas, the day after Christmas, planned to stay until the day after New Year's. Well, here in Charlotte, our team was slammed. We started having lines of hundreds again, and you guys have probably seen those lines on the news. The lab was overwhelmed, the testing team was overwhelmed, and the numbers of positives that we were getting was alarming. We thought in 2020, I'll tell you, for laboratories, on average, we see about 10% of folks that we test are positive. During the last 10 days, we've gone up progressively to about 20% of positives. Then it became 30% of positives. Right now, we're at about 60% of folks who test are positive.
those
And
are some incredible numbers. Those are just incredible numbers. So,
mhm,
you guys are out and about testing. Now you're at 60%.
mhm.
And it's
And
sadly to say,
I'm talking to other laboratories, and they are at the same rates. In
wow.
the hospitals, in their labs, they're at about 45%. So we're seeing this across the board, and it is alarming. I told everybody before New Year's, please stay at home. For our own agency, aside from the testing and the lab staff, we are at a shelter in place. Only vital staff are coming into the office. So as much as possible, if you have to go to work and leave home, go to work and come back home. It's critical. I don't see any other way to stop the rise. And now it's
Well,
after New Year's. I don't know what this week is going to look like.
so let's talk about, though, the Omicron variant. It appears that is as easily to transmit as the common cold.
Mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that the symptoms are not as deadly, or is it because more people are vaccinated, so they're not having the same response as, say, they did to the Delta variant?
I'm not really sure. What I can tell you that I've noticed is that with COVID-19 for the last couple of years, there was an incubation period where you came in contact with the virus, and then there was 3, 4, 5 days of incubation, and then if you were going to have symptoms, you'd begin to have symptoms, and when you test, you come up positive. Well, we're seeing folks who are having symptoms, and they're having the same types of COVID-19 symptoms that we're used to, but they're having them very early on, even during that incubation period where they're symptomatic, but they're still testing negative. We've had folks that we've tested 2, 3 times before they actually show up positive. And what they say is, Dr. Black, but I'm sick. What is happening to me if this is not COVID? And I'll say, well, it sure sounds like COVID when we talk
Right.
about it and when I see them, but you're negative. And then after about 5 days, they're testing positive. So it's a different structure. I think the symptoms are very similar. Folks who are vaccinated and unvaccinated are both having symptoms, but I do think I'm not seeing the severity like you said. So maybe it's something different in this strand, and we're going to have to learn. We're going to have to learn, just like we've had to learn before, and figure out how this one is different, and again, how we keep people alive.
So this is a lot to kind of work through. And for those that are maybe tuning in for the first time, we'll be back on next week. And we have great guests. We have real talk, real conversation. And Dr. Black is grassroots, boots on the ground, out there talking to you and me and giving you the information. I bothered her while she was on vacation, by the way, because, I got impacted as well. And that's why I say it's just everywhere. But let's talk about a couple of things. We've seen where our young people seem to have been impacted the most, and our
Mhm.
children. And of course, a lot of schools, especially I saw on the East Coast, are shifting to remote learning. At least the first 2 weeks here in Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, they made the decision not to do that. And a
Mhm.
lot of our children are not vaccinated. So I guess my conversation around how our children are going to be impacted, because something as simple as the common cold, it
Mhm.
jumps so easily, and that's how I see Omicron, just going from one to the other, easily transmitted. What
Mhm.
are your thoughts on that?
Well, Omicron, it seems to be like wildfire. If you are in the room with originally with the other strands of COVID, you had a chance that if you were around someone, you may not actually contract the virus. It seems like with Omicron, if you are in that same space, you're going to contract the virus. We're seeing it in the jails and in the shelters. Again, at the height of COVID-19 in 2020 and 21, we saw again 10-15%. We considered a bad spike if a facility was in the 20s. Well, now we're seeing those same jails and shelters in the 50s and 60% positive. And the thing about it is, even the ones who test negative, 3 or 5 days later, we test them and they're positive. So it's just rapidly going through. I am very concerned about children returning to school. And again, we know for children, their risk of severe illness is really low, but then they're coming home, and then it's going
Right.
to potentially spread through their families. And with the older adults and seniors, they might not have those same mild effects. So I'm very concerned. I do think the schools should do a remote learning at least for a couple of weeks to allow this virus to settle down.
So, Dr. Black, and with the children, though, it's not apparently the response with this, though, is increasing the amount of hospitalizations for our young people.
Mhm,
And we see the government responding by, I don't want to say rushing through, because that gives people some type of negative,
mhm,
maybe connotation, but we're seeing these boosters being approved a lot quicker.
mhm,
We're seeing some adjustments to try to adjust this. And I want to say on the record, for people that are constantly criticizing, this is uncharted territory.
mhm,
Our officials are doing, in my opinion, the best that they can, trying to make these adjustments, trying to go along. And so it's easy to criticize. But we do see more children being hospitalized. Is that not
mhm.
correct?
That is the case. And, I see a lot of sick children too, really high fevers that are unmanageable. Those are some of the issues, and the heavy congestion. I've had children with pneumonia.
Mhm.
So, there is risk of severe illness with children, not as frequently, but they are absolutely happening.
Well, I want to ask you this question again. It's Dr. Tracia Black, Dr. Tracia Davis Black of Groundwater Solutions. I'll make sure I get that correct.
Mhm,
One of our devoted supporters out and about in the community. Let's talk about this change, which is kind of puzzling to me, but okay, I'm going to go with it. And I'm talking
mhm,
about the CDC now saying instead of 10 days, it's 5 days. And again, I'm not criticizing, because I know
mhm,
there's science, but you got to try to figure out how this works. But in the case of 5 days now instead of
mhm.
10, what kind of explanation have you heard surrounding the change?
Well, again, there is also a new recommendation that is coming out that if you've had your booster, you don't even have to quarantine at all, not even
Oh,
the 5 days if you
okay.
show positive for COVID.
Mhm.
The only thing that I can understand or make out, like you said, we don't know. I tell folks we are building this plane as we fly it.
Right,
We're
right.
trying to figure things out. The only thing I can say is that, there is pressure again on the unvaccinated. And
Yes.
if you are vaccinated, there are rewards for that. Your quarantine time is less. And I think because they know that if you're vaccinated, you have a less risk of severe illness. So why be penalized because you have the virus? And it is the pressure is then on the unvaccinated to protect yourself, because if I'm vaccinated, I'm not going to be quarantined. And if you are exposed, you're exposed. But I'm safe because I'm vaccinated. That's the rationale that I believe it's to encourage folks who are unvaccinated to be vaccinated, because the rest of the world is not going to shut down just because you are not vaccinated.
Absolutely. So President Biden is scheduled to speak today. There is a plan over the holidays. Oh my goodness, the shortage on the test kits and the long lines of people trying to get tested just to find out if they had COVID or not. And then once they found out, they were asked to just, kind of quarantine for 5 days.
Mhm,
A lot of people still not following those rules or regulations.
mhm,
Of course, college students are now being asked to be tested, before they return.
mhm,
And I was starting to say the home kits and the testing kits. The president has announced that there's a
mhm,
plan to get over 500,000. The distribution not quite clear yet, but President Biden is speaking today to address that. I guess in my mind, if I'm trying to simplify it, this Omicron seems very similar to like the flu, where people
mhm,
get it, they get through it,
mhm,
and they kind of pass it around. But
mhm,
it's not shutting us down. But certainly people don't want it. If I can tell you, for all the people I've come in contact with and all the emails and texts that I've received saying, you've been exposed, and I've tested in my home, and I've tested positive. I mean negative. Let me clarify
mhm.
that. I've
Okay.
tested negative with the PCR,
Mhm,
completely negative. But I did have someone in my home who did test positive and
mhm,
had no symptoms at all. And I think that's another part of what's throwing people off,
mhm,
because his only symptom was a headache. And
mhm.
so to that point, it's asymptomatic, but it's just so mild that these young kids aren't, or people period, aren't giving it a whole lot of merit when they're feeling this way.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that there are symptoms of COVID that you might not be able to feel. What we know about COVID, it is decreasing the amount of oxygen that is circulating through your blood, and you can't feel that. And so
Okay.
that's one of the core symptoms. So just because you feel okay, by the time you feel like you can't breathe, you've been deprived of oxygen for a while.
Mm.
So I think just because you don't have those normal symptoms, that there's probably still something COVID related happening in your body. Again, and also the flu is not, there's some dangers to the flu. So even if
Absolutely.
you're having cold and flu like symptoms, we need to take those things seriously. And people are hurting. They're still saying this is the worst thing I've ever experienced.
Mhm.
Even if it's just cold and flu, it's a pretty bad cold and flu. And, we have to worry about things like pneumonia. So it is to be taken seriously, regardless of what you're feeling. Even if it feels normal, there are precautions that you need to be taking. You need to be drinking plenty of water. Warm water or room temperature is better than cold, because what COVID does is it thickens your blood. It makes it thick and kind of sluggish, where it's not moving as effectively in your body, even if you feel okay. So you want to flush with those warm liquids, and to make sure that your blood is still pumping. You need to get up and move around every day. You need to exercise, go get fresh air, walk around your backyard, do something to make sure that your body is getting the oxygen that it needs.
So, Dr. Black, there's never enough time. We're going to
Mhm,
continue this conversation, of course, on next weekend as we start to wrap things up. I would like for you to share kind of where you are out today, and then any suggestions that you can give to the community before we reconnect again. You've got this amazing brochure that's being distributed.
mhm,
That's a great. It's about real conversation, simple talk
mhm.
about COVID. But kind of tell us where you guys are today and just what we should be doing.
Okay. So we have permanent sites at Union County. We're in Indian Trail in the Food Line Shopping Center that's right across from the Harris Teeter distribution. We're there Monday through Saturdays. And we are at our main office in Charlotte Monday through Friday, and that is out off of Reagan Drive and Sugar Creek. And so you don't need an appointment. You just drive up and we will take care of you guys. We are out of Rapids, just so you know, we're expecting a state shipment, but everybody after Christmas, after New Year's Eve, they're pretty much out of the rapid test. We're hoping that we.
Let's talk about the rapid test real quick. I just want to ask, are they reliable? Because here's what's happening. People are doing rapid and getting negative, and they're doing PCR and coming back positive, and they're
Mhm.
going, well, we're going with the PCR. And so my point is, then why are you even using the rapid?
Yeah, and it's very misleading. We had a lot of that over the last 10 days, where we're doing the rapids on site and they're testing negative. I then end up contacting them because the PCR test shows that they're positive. And they
Right.
said, "Well, you told me I was negative when I was there." Well, we tell you when we give you the rapid that it's about 60 or 70% accurate. That
Okay.
means 30 or 40% of the time it is going to miss a positive. And
Okay.
the reason that that happens is because the rapid, you have to be at a certain viral load. And with COVID-19, your viral load increases over days. That's what I mean by that incubation period. It takes time to build up and show on a test. Well, the rapid threshold is much higher that you have to have a higher viral load than the PCR test. So the rapid does miss it. And so just know, if that's what you're using as your final test of whether you're positive or not, you're missing it 30 to 40% of the time.
So, but the rapid tests are about 60% accurate.
Correct.
Okay. And the PCR though is what's the percentage for that?
Really, my lab techs, who I trust immensely, tell me that there's a 1 to 2% error rate with the
Wow.
PCR, so it's very accurate.
That's interesting to know. So, anything else that we should be
Yeah.
doing until
The
we
other
connect
thing is,
again?
remember when we were sheltered in place and
Okay.
everything was on lockdown? We need to have those same types of behaviors. You need to be washing your hands frequently. You need to be masking, and you need to be double masking. The no cloth mask, you want to have the surgical mask or the N95 mask. I saw an episode on the news where someone was blowing a candle trying to demonstrate the effectiveness of masks. If you light a candle and you can, with your mask, you can blow that candle out, that mask is not protecting you in any way. With the even the surgical mask, you can blow the candle and it won't go out, but it will flicker. With
Okay.
the N95 mask, there is no flicker at all. It's like you're not blowing. That is ultimate protection. So if you're out there, when you go out, double mask, take your shoes off at the door, take your clothes off, wash them immediately. Just basic things, and continue that social distancing. If you don't have to go, don't go. Just stay at home. It's going to be there in next month or next year. It is not worth your life.
Well, Dr. Black, I always appreciate you. Real talk, real resources. Again, they are available. Give out your website so people will know where to go. But also, Dr. Black even hit me up for all the people that she know, and
Mhm.
she's saying, I'm concerned. We need to
Mhm.
get back to the basics of shelter in place. And I appreciate you,
Absolutely.
sister, for
Yeah,
even thinking about me, because of what we've been trying to do and what we will continue to do in our
absolutely.
community. So
Okay.
give out your website again. It's
Okay.
first show. We got a lot of tweaking to do, but we're going to get it together.
We're going to get it together. We're going to live through this, everybody. Our
Absolutely.
telephone number is 704-596-0505. Our website is www.groundwater-solutions.org.
Dr. Tracia Black, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. Absolutely. As we continue, guys, we usually have two hosts, or two guests rather, to join us. And I've got another very special guest who's going to join me. And I always have to check in with the faith community. And it was interesting. The pandemic, some numbers are now coming out showing just how badly the pandemic impacted our community. In May of 2020, about 1% of mainline Protestants said that they were attending church in person. Now, by October of last year, it was up to 14%. But now, some good news is 3 of 10 people said they're using live streaming. And who I'm bringing on now is a good friend. He's very well known in the community. He is at Little Rock Amy Zion Church. They are one of the solid rocks, a foundation, a pillar, all of those great things in our community. And I can't think of anybody better that I call a friend that's always there when I call upon. And that's Dr. Dwayne Anthony Walker. As I now put your banner up, Dr. Walker, I'm doing producer and everything over here, so bear with me. But here's Dr. Walker joining us on Canceling COVID. Thank you for squeezing us inside your busy day, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. Looking forward to
Absolutely.
Happy New Year to you and your audience.
Happy New Year, Dr. Walker. And thank you for always being so supportive. So let's talk about right now. Things were starting to build. I don't know if you heard some of the numbers I was giving in May of 2020. It was 1% for mainline Protestants attending church. Last year, it started increasing to about 14%. But I know this is something you and I had talked about before, is that, 3 in 10 has started using live streaming, and you guys were ahead of the curve because you were already doing a lot of that. So that's great news. But now that we're seeing the spike again, what kind of choices are you all having to make?
Well, unfortunately, this past Sunday, I had to announce to the congregation after the first Sunday in the brand new year, getting back, that we need to shut down again. And
Oh,
so we have gone back to all virtual as of this coming Sunday. We'll be
oh,
all virtual, everything, even the office activity that we were having. We're going back to just having my staff in for just a couple of days a week. But other than that, we're going to be all virtual.
wow. So, is that a Little Rock Amy Zion decision, or is that conference wide?
It is a Little Rock Amy Zion decision. In fact, I made it as the pastor of the church. I made that decision. I said to the congregation, we've been in person since the fourth Sunday in June. And
Um,
after looking at the science and seeing our numbers were improving, and also listening to Dr. Fauci and others who began to say it was okay to begin to gather again, I thought it was fine for us to do it. And we practice all of the protocols that we knew to practice in terms of having sanitation, sanitizing stations,
right.
encouraging persons to be socially distanced. Our ushers would bring persons in and be sure that they would stagger in their seating. And then, of course, we would encourage folks to use different doors as they go in and out and sanitize the bathroom. And then, of course, we would, as persons would come into the building, we would do temperature checks, and then they would sign a form saying they were there just in case there was any issue. We can contact them, do contact tracing. So we did everything we knew to do to keep people safe while they were in our building. And then and just watching the numbers, I said to them, we're going to be here as long as we're safe. But if something happens where these numbers go back up, we're going to shut right back down. And when we saw the numbers going back up, that's exactly what we did. I hated to do it, but
Yeah.
I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Absolutely, and you've been very consistent with that. Let's kinda talk a little about the emotional toll. As ministries and as leaders, and obviously for the spiritual well-being, our churches are the pillars of the Black community. What are you guys hearing, or what are you seeing? I will say I'm hearing more conversation around mental health, and I'm so grateful for that. But, how are you addressing that? Because everyone has got to be pretty exhausted with dealing with the pandemic.
Absolutely. We encourage our members to be in contact with one another, to check on each other. I try to check on as many as I can, and we have a system, a class leader system, where every member is a part of that class structure. It's a Methodist thing. You're a Methodist, you understand the class leader system.
Absolutely.
But we have it even more modified, where every class has group leaders, and every person is a part of a group. And we try to encourage them, and some of them do it, many of them do it, some of them don't, as much as we'd like to. But we encourage them to be in contact constantly with their members, just to make sure they're okay, see if they have any needs that we can address as a church family. And of course, we encourage our folks to tune in to our Bible studies every Wednesday, which I do live from the church, and we make available all week long. And then, of course, worship services. But we try to keep it a normal experience in terms of what we typically do if we were in person. Have a great ensemble, a great minister of music, and a great tech team that's been trying to make it as personable and as real as we possibly can, to make it a worshipful experience for those who like a traditional Methodist worship experience. So we've done that. And then, of course, we do all kinds of check-ins and all other wraparound services in terms of taking food to some of our members who we believe are food insecure and may not have access to grocery stores and such. We try to make sure that we do that, and as well as the community we try to reach out to. So I don't know what else to do, but we're praying, and we are doing everything we know to do to operate within this space.
Well, I know that you are always a leader in the community, and now on Saturday, let's talk about what you're doing to help uplift the community. And I was once, we'll go into that. Let's talk about Saturday. My time is starting to get away as usual because it's so much information. But folks, we're here every week. I see you hopping on. Please share, let people know that we are live as we are winding down. I'm talking to Dr. Dwayne Anthony Walker, Dr. Walker, as I know him, Little Rock Amy Zion Church. And on Saturday, you guys are already stepping forward and hosting something.
Yes, we're having COVID testing as well as vaccinations. There is a young lady out of Eastern North Carolina, Dr. Letitia Godet, and she is the chief executive officer of Ottendorf Laboratories. And
Okay.
she's doing testing and COVID vaccinations all over the state. And she's partnered with us several times. This will be probably the third or fourth time that we've had this particular laboratory come to our site, and they're going to be doing COVID testing as well as vaccinations. She has the vaccines, Moderna, Pfizer, even Johnson and Johnson, and I didn't mean to say even Johnson and Johnson, but Johnson and Johnson, and then the boosters for both the Pfizer and Moderna. And then she also has pediatric vaccines available for children who qualify for those vaccines. And so we're prepared to receive the community. We're blessed to have a large parking lot with several entrances and exits, and we're monitoring now or trying to determine now how to navigate or direct our traffic, where there will be persons who can come in and get tested and vaccinated, and then we'll have it outside as well. So we're prepared for whatever. Dr. Gadet usually sends one team, but she's going to send two or if not three teams on Saturday based on whatever the response has been. There have been people calling to inquire, and I'm hoping that will mean that folks will show up and finally get their vaccinations and certainly get tested.
And that's on Saturday, 12 noon, 401 North McDowell Street, correct?
That's right. 401 North McDowell Street. We're on 7th and McDowell, uptown, or downtown for those who are new to Charlotte.
Yeah.
But we're uptown, and we have a great location. We praise God for that. And we try to make our space always available to the community. And so we have that event on Saturday. And we've even got a call from another group who may want to come on Monday to do testing. And so we may be available to do that Monday as well. So stay tuned.
Well, I just posted it in the chat, and I laugh because I've got your address memorized. I always, and that just speaks to all that you always do in the community and always available. So this Saturday, for anyone looking to get tested or vaccinated, because we have been told those that are being hospitalized for the most part are those that are not vaccinated, and we can't deny that. So as we wrap things up, Dr. Walker, is there anything else you would like to share? I'm sure I'll be calling on you again, and I certainly appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Oh, no, just thank you again for all you continue to do in the community. And I wish you much success in 2022, and keep doing what you're doing, keep the community informed. And any way we can be of service, please let us know. I'm glad that you did mention that fact that I did hear the number that 800,000 people in the United States alone have died from COVID over the last 2 years. 800, that's almost 1 million people. Folks.
That's a lot.
And then to find out that 89% of those who are in intensive care are those who are unvaccinated. Right. So let you know that the vaccines do work. I know that people have been skeptical about what to do, but we've been getting vaccinated all of our lives. And this is this is nothing new. I don't know why it's so spooky for some people, but the numbers don't lie. Follow the science and follow common sense. If you see that 89% of people who are in intensive care are unvaccinated, well, what does that tell you? That those who are not as susceptible to getting to the level of illness that others are. And so I'm grateful that I have been vaccinated and boosted, and I encourage everyone else to do. Of course, it's your business, but what you decide affects all of us. So please consider it and reconsider it.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Walker, all the best to you in 2022. I love you. I appreciate you. And thank you. There's nothing more for me to say. So thank you for taking the time to join us. And thank you for the great wisdom and great conversation as always. As we continue, guys, it's time for me to wrap things up. You know, it's a little beyond 11:30. We got 30 minutes to get in and share your information. But what I do need for you to do is please let people know that we're here. Let people know what we're sharing. And you can send your comments or questions or anything you would like to share. Email me, rivenstanya@gmail.com. rivenstanya@gmail.com. You can share this conversation. We're on Facebook and YouTube. Again, I'm kicking off our very first show of 2022. I want to say thank you to Groundwater Solutions for their support. Dr. Tricia Black, back with us again. Dr. Tricia Davis Black of Groundwater Solutions. And we've got a lot in store for you, but most importantly, a lot of conversation and a lot of information that you would normally not get anywhere else. I'm still getting adjusted here, even with the camera, but we're going to get it right. We got through the first show. Whew, that's the most important part. So as always, life's challenges make you better, not bitter. Have a great week, everyone. Happy 2022. Please be safe, be well. Dr. Black and Dr. Walker gave out some really great information, especially about kind of going back, sheltered down, doing what we did before. If it's not necessary, don't do it. There's a lot happening right now. And if you're not concerned about you, be concerned about your neighbor and how your choices may impact them. That's really, really important. And again, I put in our chat, please share this on Saturday. Though all these long lines, Groundwater Solutions is an option for you if you're looking to get tested, and even Little Rock AME Zion on this Saturday. Again, thanks everyone. Have a great week. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you on Saturday. I'm at Praise 100.9. I went back to Praise 100.9. So join me on Saturday, middays from 10 to 2. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support at Canceling COVID. And we'll see you next week. Be safe and be well.